5 spine-chilling true trucker tales from the Northeast that will haunt your sleep forever. Jack Anderson adjusted his cap, glancing nervously at the clock. The late-night run had become a nightmare for many truckers on Route 84, with tales spreading like wildfire. They whispered of disappearances, nameless souls swallowed up by the shadows, leaving behind nothing but fear and an empty seat at the dinner table. Panic clawed at him. What if he became the next tale? Be careful out there. Sarah hugged him tightly, her voice quivering. He felt her heart race against his chest. Timmy, their son, handed him a scribbled drawing, bright colors flaring against the impending darkness. For good luck, Dad. Jack's smile faltered. He could feel that something was off. Their little world felt heavy as he pulled away from the warmth of home and into the cold abyss of night. With every mile, the silence grew thick. Jack's headlights carved through the darkness, illuminating the asphalt that twisted like a serpent beneath him. The stories of the collector, a phantom trucker who preyed on the unwary, looped in his mind. Each honk echoed the warnings of fellow truckers, their voices filled with dread. He shook his head, expelling unease. But then, an old rusted truck half buried in a ditch flickered in his headlights. An awful sound echoed, a mechanical groan that begged for rescue. A wave of compassion pulled him toward it, battling against a creeping dread. There was something unsettling about this scene, like an unseen force tugging at him. He pulled over, hands trembling. The half-lit truck, shrouded in the midnight mist, seemed to be watching him. "Hello?" he called, voice quivering. No response, just the wind shrieking through the trees, giving life to his worst fears. Back home, Sarah sat on the edge of the couch, the ticking clock amplifying her anxiety. Night felt endless. She paced to the window, peering through the curtains. Where could he be? She murmured, losing herself in shadows. She couldn't shake the tightening grip of isolation. There was something off about Walter next door. His friendly demeanor felt too rehearsed, like a mask. She couldn't ignore his tales of the road, the way his eyes darted when he spoke of the vanished truckers. Every story dripped with mystery, feeding her unease. Meanwhile, Jack's gut churned as he approached the wreck. A flicker of lights caught his eye, tendrils of cold fear coiling around his spine. The closer he got, the more the shadows tightened around him. Panic surged when he reached for his phone, only to find it dead, no signal, just as darkness descended, swallowing hope whole. The atmosphere thickened. Sweat trickled down his back. Sudden movement. A figure stepped from behind the rusted truck, silhouette sharp against the fading light. Jack's heart hammered wildly. Every instinct screamed to flee, but curiosity and dread held him hostage. As their eyes locked, something shifted within him. This was the moment. Would he escape this nightmare? Could he trust the people back in Maplewood? Or were they hiding truths darker than he dared to know? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack stood frozen, the world around him fading to a pale blur. Time stretched, the tension rising as that sinister smile emerged from the shadows, teeth gleaming with a dreadful thirst. It was an invitation into darkness, a question hanging in the air. Would he succumb to the legend or fight against becoming just another tragic trucker tale? An echo lost on the haunting route? The echo of laughter sent chills. Racing down his spine, Jack was about to find out how deep the true horrors ran. Jack's breath hitched, locked in a pincer grasp of fear and confusion. The shadowy figure stepped forward, revealing a face half hidden beneath a frayed hood. A chill raced down his spine, as if winter had seeped into his bones. This was not the ordinary lost soul he had hoped for. "Can I help you?" Jack's voice trembled on the edge of panic. The figure tilted its head, and in that moment, Jack caught a glimpse of glistening eyes, as if filled with stars and black voids all at once. "Help? You think you can help me?" The voice was raspy, reverberating through the damp night like an old vinyl record scratching against itself. "Help is the last thing you need." Panic clawed at Jack. That laugh echoed again, sharper this time, slicing through the night. "You've heard the stories, haven't you?" The figure continued, stepping closer, an aura of dread wafting off him like smoke. "The collector takes what he needs, and tonight, he wants you." Jack stumbled back, adrenaline surging as he turned to run. But the darkness loomed thick and heavy, and it felt like the forest held its breath, watching. He never felt so alive and so terrified. Every muscle screamed for action. His heart thundered louder than the truck's engine. But the voice followed him, echoing with sinister joy. "You can't escape me, Jack. I am the whispers of your road." He raced to his truck, fumbling for the door handle as the sound of footsteps behind him quickened. The rubber caught under his shoes, the slick ground threatening to pull him under. He finally threw the door open, nearly falling inside. His fingers slapped the ignition, praying for the truck to roar to life. Silence. Only the sound of his ragged breathing filled the air. The engine refused to start, mocking him. Jack's terror escalated. He felt eyes on him, penetrating. He shot a glance back to the figure, now standing right behind him, grinning wider than before, a monstrosity of hungry anticipation. "Do you feel that?" The figure pointed towards the woods, shadows swirling like a tempest. "They're waiting for you, just like I am. They want to know what it feels like to steal a life." "No, get back," Jack shouted, swinging open the door again in a desperate bid to make a run for it. But the figure lunged, clasping its hands around his arm like steel. "You've stepped onto hallowed ground, my friend," it hissed, eyes glimmering with malevolence. "You're part of the story now." With a surge of strength, Jack broke free, launching himself back into the darkness. He stumbled through the trees, branches clawing at his flesh, tearing his shirt. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum, urging him to escape the creeping horror lurking at his heels. He could hear whispers, soft and inviting, both enticing and terrifying. They swallowed him whole, filling his mind with panic. "Jack! Jack!" The cries of his family resonated in his ears, Sarah's voice anchoring him to something real, something warm. He ran faster, heart pounding, pushing through thick brush, desperate for the glow of headlights that felt so far away. But as he broke through the trees, he was met with a terrifying sight. The road stretched out before him, but it was not the same road he had known. Where was his truck? The asphalt shimmered in moonlight, almost like a new layer, fresh and clean, hiding something sinister beneath. Then, all at once, he felt it, the darkness breathing, inflating behind him, closing in. Jack turned around, stumbling backward, heart crashing against his ribs. The figure was there, standing still, eyes shining in the night. "You can't run from what you are." The chill gripped Jack, uncertainty gnawing at his sanity. How was he part of this dark tale? What did it mean? Embrace it, Jack. Join the others. With a surge of urgency, he whirled to face the dark night once more. He had to find a way out before he became a line in a new tale, swallowed by the collector forever. But as he started to run again, the whispers clawed at him, echoing in his mind. Somewhere in the distance, a truck's headlights flickered, and hope flickered right along with. Could there be salvation waiting, or would it too be an illusion? Jack was about to discover the horrific truth of what lay ahead. Jack blinked against the haze of fear that surrounded him. The faint flicker in the distance seemed to beckon like a lighthouse through a storm, but the pull of the collector's sinister grin remained strong. He had to reach those headlights. Could they really belong to a fellow traveler? Or was it another trap, a cruel jest of the lurking shadows? Pushing through the dense underbrush, Jack's heart hammered in his chest. Every step felt heavier, the forest whispering secrets around him, teasing him with what he might find or what might find him. The laughter echoed, a cruel reminder of the threat breathing just behind him, shadowing his every move. "Run, Jack! They're at your heels." The voice hissed, But Jack couldn't let the panic overtake him. Each breath came harder, a rattled echo against the night's silence as he forced himself forward. The truck's headlights flickered again, more pronounced now, slicing through the darkness as if promising safety. He stumbled out of the woods and onto the edge of the road. The truck was parked, seemingly empty. Jack hesitated, the tantalizing offer of hope mingling with the dread welling in his stomach. It didn't feel right. An empty truck by the roadside at this hour? It felt like bait, a trap set by the very shadows that pestered him. "Is anyone in there?" he called, his voice cracking. Silence settled over him, thick enough to feel. The headlights remained dim, glowing like a malignant star, watching. Stepping closer, Jack peered through the windshield, expecting to see someone inside. But the seat was empty. Nothing stirred as he grasped the cold metal of the passenger door, pushing it open. The moonlight spilled inside, illuminating the scattered belongings: a driver's cap, a half-eaten sandwich, a newspaper with ominous headlines. It felt like the remnants of a life interrupted. Then he heard it, a soft rustle behind him, whispering through the darkness, that same voice that had haunted him. "There's no escape, Jack." The figure from earlier stepped into view, now fully revealed. He stood under the pale moonlight, his form more grotesque than before, the stars in his eyes swirling with hunger. The wicked grin expanded as Jack felt a new layer of panic, primal and raw. "The collector desires companionship. We will take you home." Jack lunged into the cab of the truck, adrenaline pushing him forward like a racing freight train. He dissolved into the seat, slamming the door shut just as the figure lunged towards him. Heart racing wildly, he fumbled for the keys, praying they might be hanging somewhere in the vehicle. Outside, the shadows swelled, stretching arms of darkness toward him. The figure's laughter knifed through the air, echoing with a manic glee. "You're part of the story now, Jack. You can't escape your fate." Hands shaking, Jack spotted the keys, a mere glint of metal on the floor. He snatched them up and thrust the key into the ignition, twisting frantically. Silence. Just a whimpering breath escaping from his lips. He slammed the key again, desperate. This time, the engine groaned to life, but the rattling sound spiraled into a dynamic roar that sent shockwaves through the air. "Drive, drive," he screamed at himself, slamming the gear into reverse. The tires screeched against the asphalt, kicking up gravel as Jack veered the wheel, peeling away just as the collector lunged at the cab. But the forest twisted and turned, and each turn felt wrong, with the road stretching endlessly before him. The headlights flickered ominously, beckoning like a siren's call. "What are you doing?" Jack shouted at the empty truck's cabin. "What do you want from me?" Suddenly, the laughter ceased, the shadows quieted. The road ahead morphed, pulsating with an eerie glow that begged him to look deeper. In that moment, he could see them, the faces trapped in the darkness, each one reflecting his own horror. They reached out, eyes wide with terror, mouths open in silent scream. It was too late to turn back. But what did they want? In the visions, Jack saw them beckoning him towards the void, towards the collector. He blanched at the realization. They were just like him, stuck in this endless torment. Jack gripped the wheel tighter, the weight of the truth suffocating his breath. He had to make a choice: either join them or fight back against the consuming dark. But how could he fight a force that seeped through the very ground beneath him? And as he pressed the accelerator, tearing down the spectral road, he realized the headlights weren't leading him to salvation. No, they were simply illuminating the path to his oblivion. But suddenly, a sharp snap echoed through the air. The engine coughed, sputtering. Jack's heart sank as the headlights flickered once more before fading into nothingness. And then silence. Wrapped in darkness, he finally understood. The collector was not just hunting him. He was urging Jack to embrace the very horror he feared. As the world around him dimmed, Jack felt the spectral pull of the forest creeping back in, the lost souls whispering promises of acceptance. But there, in the depths of panic, a sliver of hope sparked within him. If he fought hard enough, perhaps he could carve a new path. Only time would tell if the choice was his to make. What lay ahead? Would he find the way to break free, or would he be lost forever in the collector's shadows? The engine coughed, then stuttered into silence, leaving Jack alone in the dark, a suffocating silence wrapping around him like a shroud. The abandoned truck, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a coffin, and the shadows outside closed in, pulsating with a life of their own. His heart thundered. Every beat echoed, a desperate plea drowning in the thickening gloom. Fight back, he muttered to himself, his breath shallow. You can't let him win. Yet the oppressive weight of despair loomed larger than ever. Jack could feel the collector's presence like a shadow pressing against his back, waiting, watching, savoring his fear. Suddenly the air shifted. Cold fingers brushed his neck, icy and alive. Panic surged, and without thinking, Jack threw open the door, spilling onto the gravel that crunched beneath his feet like glass. He stumbled away from the truck, seeking refuge in the twisted foliage that had been his relentless tormentor. But the ground shifted beneath him. It was as if the very earth wished to consume him whole, the roots and tendrils grasping at his legs, pulling him back into this nightmare. He fought against it, ripping free, and ran toward the outline of trees that loomed like a dark cathedral against the faint glow of a distant moon. "Leave me alone," he shouted, defiance replacing fear with each step. But with every stride, the echo of laughter danced mockingly around him. The collector thrived on his desperation. Jack strained his ears, listening no longer for the promise of dazzle from the headlights, but for any sign of assistance. Yet, all he heard was the wind, cold and indifferent, carrying the whispers of those lost souls. Ahead, the trees seemed to part, revealing a path winding deeper into the heart of the forest. An odd luminescence shimmered along the route, a trail of silver that glinted invitingly, beckoning him to take the plunge into whatever lay beyond. He hesitated but felt the pull of the trapped faces behind him, eyes filled with regret and longing. They mirrored his own horror, yet somehow compelled him to follow. Jack darted toward the light, racing against the primal urge to turn back. The forest closed in, branches clawing at him, tearing through his clothes, but he pressed forward, fueled by the ghostly hopes of those trapped before him. They cried out in low whispers, urging him on. "Find it, Jack, reveal the truth." The ground beneath him shimmered, a momentary glimpse of the promised escape. He could feel the warmth of anticipation entwined with ice-cold fear. "What do you want?" he panted, desperation clawing at his throat. "Why me?" The distant laughter rose to a crescendoing with manic energy, a symphony of madness. It was an answer he dreaded. He had become an unwilling player in a twisted game, each moment now a test of his will against the collector's unyielding hunger. Suddenly, a fog rolled in, a suffocating veil that obscured everything, closing in on him like a noose. Jack gasped, eyes stinging. Everything converged, the sound of laughter mingling with anguished cries. He pressed on, clutching at the air, trying to breathe as the pulse of the ground synchronized with his racing heartbeat. But just when he thought the fog would swallow him, a figure emerged, flickering between the trees. A silhouette with deep-set eyes and a gaping mouth that widened in an unholy grin. It was another soul, trapped, eyes pleading yet devoid of hope. Before Jack could process it, the silhouette lunged towards him, arms flailing wildly as if begging for release. "No!" he screamed, stumbling back. The fog twisted, revealing more faces, twisted, grotesque reflections of himself, each one more disturbing than the last, all remnants of souls lost to the collector. The laughter faded, replaced by the chorus of despair. Jack staggered, grasping at his chest as waves of panic surged through him. How deep did this horror go? How many had fallen to the collector before him? A flash of clarity struck him amidst the chaos. "I want to join you," Jack shouted, glaring at the specters surrounding him. "I'll fight." With newfound ferocity, he dashed into the fog, palm outstretched toward the shimmering path that beckoned him. The faces shrieked, their screams fading into the mist as he pushed away from the grasp of despair. But what awaited him beyond the veil, in this otherworldly glow? In that moment of prayer and defiance, He knew he was making a choice between darkness and whatever light lay ahead. Jack barreled forward into the unknown, just as the forest erupted in an otherworldly shriek. Would he find salvation at the end of the path, or would he slip deeper into the Collector's grasping shadows? The last remnants of the voices blended into an ominous murmur, reinforcing the understanding that this was merely the beginning of a nightmare far from over. The path was alive, the silver glow pulsating like a heartbeat. Jack felt the weight of the fog lift just slightly, as if allowing him a fleeting breath of clarity. He pressed on, a wild desperation coursing through him. Each step echoed with the frantic rhythm of his heart. Shadows flickered along the path, and the distant laughter warped, intertwining with the soft rustle of the leaves. Keep moving, he urged himself, but doubt clawed at the edges of his mind. What if the light was a trap? What if the Collector awaited with open arms at the end? He brushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the path ahead, which snaked deeper into the merciless dark like a living thing. As he rounded a bend, the trees thinned out, revealing a clearing bathed in an eerie luminescence. Stone ruins jutted from the earth like the remnants of a forgotten era. They loomed ominously, marred by the passage of time, cloaked in despair. But in that moment, something whispered to him a truth buried beneath fear. Jack felt the hands of the Collector slacking his grip, if only a fraction, and curiosity pulled him closer. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made his skin crawl. He stepped into the clearing, his senses sharp, alert. An unsettling silence pressed in. Somewhere, a low hum began, resonating within the stones. Was it music or a funeral dirge? Jack's breath quickened as he saw what lay within the ruins. A shattered altar, its surface stained by centuries of sacrifice. The sight sent a shiver through his spine. Jack, a voice slithered from the shadows, soft and beguiling. It wrapped around him like a caress. Jack, come closer, who's there? Jack called out, his voice sharp with challenge. He knew enough not to trust the darkness. The shadows shifted, coalescing into forms that writhed in agony. Faces surfaced here and there, their expressions twisted in torment, begging silently for deliverance. Jack shuddered, the air humming with their collective cries. The Collector had used this place a sanctuary of despair, a gathering for the lost. Help us, another voice rasped, desperate yet tinged with that same alluring charm. Join us, Jack. We can protect you. A pang struck his heart. They were once like him, spirited people left to rot in the grip of this horror. Jack fought against the paralyzing dread. I want tea, he shouted, clenching his fists. You can't have me. But the more he resisted, the more the earth trembled beneath his feet. The stained ground began to pulse, and fissures opened wide, spilling forth dark mist that slithered toward him like serpents. Jack stumbled backward, mind racing. The ruins were a hell spiral, a vortex of despair drawing him in. He could already feel the pull of the souls, each one clawing at the edges of his sanity, each one promising safety in their twisted world. With every ounce of strength, he turned and sprinted back to the silver path, panic cracking through him like a whip. The laughter returned, derisive and sharp, echoing in the emptiness of the clearing. It lashed at his back, urging him to falter, to yield to the shadows. You will end up just like us. They screamed in unison, their voices melding into one haunting melody. You can never escape the Collector. But Jack had to believe that escape was possible. Blood roaring in his ears, he pressed on, desperation fueling his flight. The trees loomed ahead, a dark wall of refuge. As he barreled forward, an immediate desire to live ignited within him. The darkness tried to creep into his mind, whispering insidious thoughts of surrender. Jack burst through the tree-line, plunging forward to the heart of the forest where the silver trail grew dimmer, less inviting. A deep roar filled the air, the Collector's laughter vibrating through the trees, a promise of pursuit, of inevitability. And then he saw it, a flicker of light ahead, brighter than before. Could it be hope? But as Jack pushed forward, he felt it again, the summoning of the Collector nearby, the air growing colder, the shadows flanking him, restless in their hunger. Just as he reached for the brightness, the ground shook violently beneath him, and he stumbled, teetering on the edge of something darker, far more dangerous than he could fathom. What awaited him in the light? Was it salvation or yet another trap? The laughter roared once more, sending chills racing down his spine. The true horror was far from over. Jack's heart pounded like a war drum as he fought to regain his balance, the ground trembling as if it had a life of its own. He clawed at the air, desperate to catch hold of something solid, to anchor himself against the chaos. The silver light flickered, mocking his struggle, pulling him in like moth to flame. The laughter, omnipresent and chilling, washed over him like a cold wave, dousing the warmth of hope that flickered inside. "Stay with us," it hissed, a promise made of taunts. He caught sight of something at the edge of the light. A figure emerged, silhouette framed against the brightness. It was a woman, her hair long, flowing like dark shadows across her shoulders. Her face was partially hidden, yet Jack felt the pull of her presence, stronger than the laughter that haunted him. "Jack," she pleaded, her voice silk and honey, "don't be afraid. I can help you." Was this another trap? Doubt chilled his resolve, but something deep within him yearned for connection. "How can I trust you?" he shouted over the cacophony of madness surrounding him. "Because I fought against the collector too," she replied, stepping forward. Her face flickered in the light, revealing piercing blue eyes that held the storm of the forest within. "I'm still here, aren't you?" The weight of her words crashed over him, penetrating the haze of terror. He forced his gaze away from the light and back at the remnants of the ruins, where the wails of the lost shaped themselves into a chorus of despair. "What did you do?" he asked, gripping onto the hope she offered, though doubt still lurked in the corners of his mind. "I found a way," she said, her voice rising above the din of horror. "But you must be willing to leave everything behind. The collector feeds on fear. Feed him doubt and he can't hold you. You can't just run, you have to fight." Before he could respond, the shadows flickered closer, coiling like vipers, tongues tasting the air. Jack could feel their hunger, almost personal, as if targeting his very soul. "No," he howled, shaking his head. "I don't want to belong to him." "Then fight," she cried. "You have the power. You just need to believe it." In that moment, something shifted within Jack. Surrounded by screams that threatened to tear him apart, he felt an ember spark within, igniting an unyielding resolve to not become another lost soul. But as the ground cracked and the shadows encroached, the laughter morphed into a sinister growl, the collector's voice slicing through the chaos. "You can't escape, Jack. You were never meant to." The laugh echoed, resonant and cold, drowning out the fragile courage he had mustered. What if the woman was lying? What if he was simply to be another sacrifice? A surge of panic wrestled with his determination, churning like a violent storm. "Listen," the woman beckoned, stretching her hand out to him, the silver light intensifying around her. "You must choose. Step into the light or surrender. You can't hesitate." Fissures danced across the earth, shadows howling and clawing, the path collapsing as the collector's laughter morphed into a shriek of rage. Jack felt it, the moment of truth, a decision that could seal his fate. He took a step toward her, but hesitation clawed at him. Was he running toward salvation, or deeper into a snare? Just then, the ground erupted, a burst of dark mist and long-forgotten screams sending him tumbling into the thick, swirling shadows. As he spiraled downward, the last thing he caught sight of was the woman, her eyes wide with fear, her hand outstretched, reaching for him even as he was swallowed whole. What lay in the depths of that shadowy abyss? Would he emerge anew, or was there no way back this time? The answers slipped away like the last glimmers of light, leaving him suspended in darkness, clinging to the whisper of doubt that echoed alongside fear. Could this be the end or merely the beginning? Jack's body fell into the abyss, weighted by fear as he tumbled through a void of swirling darkness. The air was thick and stale, pressing against him like an unseen force. Memories of laughter faded, replaced by a consuming silence that throbbed in his ears. A dreadful uncertainty laced with despair washed over him. Time lost meaning. Moments stretched as he spiraled deeper, adrenaline pumping through his veins. Panic clawed at his throat, threatening to choke him. Then, with a sudden jolt, he hit a cold, solid surface. The impact resonated through his bones, sending tremors of pain shooting up his spine. He gasped, trying to orient himself in the oppressive darkness. Blinking furiously, trying to clear the murk from his vision, Jack felt the ground beneath him uneven, jagged rocks painfully poking through the thin fabric of his clothes. Shadows flickered near the edge of his vision, always just out of clear sight, whispering and cackling as they danced. It was sinister, alive and hungry. Jack, a voice emerged from the dark, low and utterly familiar, a voice he never wanted to hear again. The very horror that had haunted his dreams. "Jack, you'll be ours soon." A chill spread through him. The collector's call echoed in his mind. Remnants of the treacherous laughter wrapped around each syllable. He shook his head, refusing to give in. He had to fight. "Where am I?" he cried, desperate. "What do you want from me?" The shadows shrieked with delight at his fear, forming shapes that swirled and chased one another in a grotesque dance. Staggering to his feet, Jack squinted, trying to find some source of light or escape. His pulse hammered as he stumbled across uneven terrain, slick with wet earth and decay, every step dragging him deeper into the nightmarish labyrinth. Then he felt it, an icy breeze that whispered secrets, pulling at the edges of his mind. Memories seeped through, tangled up with the growing dread. A child's laughter, a field of flowers, fleeting glimpses of normalcy drifting away like the fading light. "No, not now," he thought, shaking his head violently to dispel the distractions. But the shadows shifted closer, their whispers morphing into cries. "Give in, Jack. It's easier this way. Surrender." Gritting his teeth, he clenched his fists until his nails bit into his palms, anchoring reality. He had fought to reach this point. "I won't let you have me," he yelled defiantly. Suddenly, a glimmer caught his eye. A thread of silver light flickered a distance away, pulsing like a heartbeat. Stumbling toward it, he felt a surge of hope igniting within him. The woman's words echoed in his ears. Doubt was the enemy. The collector thrived on hesitation. Jack sprinted, heart racing, as shadows clawed at him, snapping like jaws. He felt the cold rush over his skin, threatening to drag him back. Close now, almost there. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from the darkness, wrapping like a vice around his ankle, dragging him down. "You can't escape," it hissed. "Your fear is a feast." With a raw scream, Jack clawed at the earth beneath him, dragging himself against the pull of the maw that threatened to swallow him whole. He could see the silver light flickering, tantalizingly close, inviting him like a long-lost friend. "Keep fighting." A voice screamed from somewhere deep in the shadows, a comforting echo of the woman. "Fight." As he dug his fingers into the dirt, he felt something shift inside him, an ancient fire igniting against despair. With a guttural roar, he pulled himself free, breaking the hold of darkness like a birth cry in the midst of a storm. He plunged into the silver light. Everything erupted in brilliance. As shadows shrieked in fury, Jack realized there was more at stake than his own survival. Suddenly, the warmth of the light revealed a scene familiar faces. A montage of destruction, grief, and betrayal flashed before him. There, at the center, the collector loomed, eyes burning with malice, waiting. Jack was no longer sure if the light was salvation or a trap. Could he navigate this new landscape of nightmares and hope? Then he felt the ground tremble beneath him again, a warning rumble that shattered the moment. Would he make it out alive, or had he merely wandered deeper into the collector's grasp? The darkness loomed close once more, and Jack steeled himself for what lay ahead. Time to decide, was he ready to confront the true nature of the collector and the memories he held, or was this merely another layer of his hell? And as he stepped forward, the laughter echoed once more, chilling him to the bone. The brilliance of the silver light dulled, shadows creeping back in to reclaim their hold. Jack's heart raced with each encroaching wave of darkness. He steadied himself, breathing hard, as the collector's laughter clanged in his ears like a funeral bell. "Welcome back. Jack, did you think you could flee? You can't have me," Jack shouted, desperation fueling his resolve. "I'll never be yours." The collector stepped closer, every inch of his form dripping with a sinister intent. "Ah, but you're wrong, my dear boy. You've always been mine. Every fear, every secret they feed me." Jack couldn't let himself falter. Memories flickered like broken glass. His mother's warm embrace. The innocent days spent under clear skies. And then, the horror of betrayal. Each image held weight, threatening to collapse the walls he had built. The patter of rain began, soft yet insistent, as if the world outside mourned along with him. Jack turned, scanning for an escape. But the paths of light twisted and coiled, leading him in circles. Whispers exploded around him, taunting him. "Look at what you've lost. Look at what you could have if you just let go. No, you're lying." His voice trembled, choked by the rising tension. But doubt gnawed at him. Could he give in? Maybe it would be easier, but that thought sparked something deeper inside him. A flicker of defiance. "I won't forget my past, I will use it," he growled. With renewed determination, he sprinted toward the flickering light ahead, ignoring the shrieks of shadows clawing at him. Each step slapped against the cold, wet earth, but the warmth of the glimmer surged in his chest, pulsing like a heartbeat urging him forward. "Faster! The collector is hungry," echoed a distant voice, almost lost in the tumult of cackles. Was it the woman? The laughter intensified, an orchestra of madness cutting through the night. Jack could feel their collective hunger, a storm of longing for his surrender. Suddenly, the ground heaved violently beneath him. "Face the truth, Jack." The collector's voice boomed, echoing like thunder. Jack stumbled, the very earth churning beneath him. "Stop!" he yelled, a primal scream escaping his lips. He fought against the pull of the despair that threatened to drown him once again. "I am not afraid of you." The shadows paused, a charged silence wrapping around him. The echoes began to fade, their grasp on his mind weakening. But the stillness was short-lived. With a roar, a massive silhouette surged from the dark, a figure with features twisted in rage. A shadow of all Jack feared. "Your memories. Your loved ones," it roared, advancing on him. The collector was now a puppet master, strings taut with malevolence, ready to ensnare him once more. "They will be your undoing." "No," Jack shouted back, drawing on every ounce of strength. He reached deep within, grasping the light at his center. "I will forge my own path." He lunged toward the light, feeling warmth cascade over him. The silvery glow refracted, momentarily blinding the shadows. They shrieked, a cacophony of frustration and fury, as he pushed through like a soldier breaking free from the grip of the enemy. Then he emerged into a new space, a corridor lined with doors, each one marked by a memory, a choice long forgotten. Jack breathed hard, every nerve alive with adrenaline, and turned to face the abyss behind him. "This isn't over," the collector bellowed, a roar filled with vengeance. Jack felt the ground tremble again, as if the very structure around him was protesting against his defiance. He knew the collector would come for him, bending the shadows to its will. With urgency gnawing at him, Jack glanced at the doors. Panic clawed at him, what lay behind each, and what would it cost him to step through. He could hear the siren call of the darkness. Then the laughter erupted from the shadows again, more urgent, more mocking. They knew he was vulnerable, lost in indecision. "Which will it be, Jack? Open one of them and let us see what you really are." And as the screeching continued, he took a breath, asking himself if he was truly ready to confront his past, knowing full well that the real collector of memories awaited him behind each door. The corridor stretched endlessly, its wooden floor creaking under Jack's hurried steps. Each door loomed larger than the last. The shadows quivered, eager to pull him back into their fold. But the light pulsing within him kept the tendrils of darkness at bay for now. Jack hesitated, the whispers clawing at his mind. Each door beckoned like an unholy siren. He could almost read the titles etched into the wood, remnants of moments he had wished to forget. Family, betrayal, abandonment, failure, each word echoed with a pain he recognized too well. He stepped closer to the first door. It was a deep mahogany, smooth yet tarnished. The knob turned beneath his trembling fingers, but fear tethered him in place. What if he couldn't face what lay beyond? What if it was all too much? Open it. The shadows seemed to breathe, their voices melding into a sinister blend. You can't hide from the truth. Taking a shuddering breath, Jack pushed open the first door. It creaked loudly, the sound piercing through the silence like a bullet. Darkness engulfed the space beyond, swirling like a violent storm. He peered in, heart hammering, but saw only a reflection, a memory surfacing like a ghost. He stood in his childhood home, the air thick with tension. His mother was there, a flash of joy amidst the chaos. But then the scene twisted, shadows absorbing the warmth. A figure loomed over her, face warped with rage. Jack could feel the despair radiating from that moment, pain jolting through him. He recoiled and slammed the door shut. No, he gasped, collapsing against the cold wood, breathing heavily. The shadows outside howled, hungry for his admission of defeat. You can't escape, Jack. A voice cooed from the depths. It was silky smooth, wrapping around him like chains. You must face them all. Jack wiped sweat from his brow, grit clenching his teeth. The anger within him began to boil. He had already faced one nightmare. It didn't end there. Was he truly willing to let the darkness dictate his fate? No, he roared, snapping back to life. With adrenaline pulsing, he stormed toward the second door, its dark finish beckoning him like a challenge. As he swung it wide, light flooded in a blinding flash that forced him to squint. He stepped inside, ready to shove aside any trace of fear. This time, bright memories danced. He was with friends under a golden sun, laughter echoing around him. But the happiness was fleeting. It crumbled to reveal a flicker of betrayal. A friend's face warped into that of the collector, leering and sinister, the laughter morphing into a screech. Foolish boy, trust only leads to ruin. The room darkened again, the light fading faster than it appeared. Jack felt the walls close in, like a serpent squeezing the life out of him. No, he screamed, the fear igniting into rage. He bolted back, nearly slamming into the doorframe. The laughter of the shadows echoed behind him, a discordant symphony of mockery. His heart thrummed violently in his chest. He took a deep breath. With rising resolve, he turned to the next door, its surface scratched and battered. Come on, Jack, he urged himself, determination flooding through him. You have to find a way out. Face the truth. He pushed the door open. This time he didn't flinch. The air hit him like a tidal wave, memories racing a different street. A dark evening, the smell of burning rubber. A truck barreled past, headlights blinding. He could feel the fear, his own stomach twisting at the liquid horror of it. He caught his reflection in a nearby window, eyes wide, heart pounding. You call this a life, Jack? The shadows hissed, taunting him. You think confronting your past will save you? Shut up, he bellowed, flinging himself through the portal of memories, emerging on the other side. The collector's voice echoed once more, promising chaos. Choose wisely, Jack, you will only find despair. Each room opened into yet another nightmare, yet another reckoning. Jack stood gripping the doorframe, sweat drenching his brow, as the shadows closed in. But, instead of collapsing to hopelessness, the flicker of defiance ignited like a flame inside him. He would no longer be the victim. His path of memories led somewhere dark, but each choice could forge a new destiny. What awaited him beyond the next door, a freedom he had yearned for, or yet another terror lurking in the shadows? With steely resolve, Jack flung the next door wide open, feeling the weight of all choices hang in the air like a storm waiting to break. What would emerge from the depths? Adrenaline coursed through his veins as he stepped into the unknown, knowing he was ready to confront whatever horrors lay ahead. Jack stepped into the next room, holding his breath as the air shimmered around him like heat rising from asphalt. This time, the shadows didn't rush to greet him. A chilling stillness enveloped the space, a suffocating silence that held his past memories hostage. His heart thundered in his chest. This could be the moment of reckoning. As he glanced around, the room materialized into a haunting landscape of his choices. It was a morose reminder of all the roads he had taken. Each wall held faded photographs, moments trapped in time. His family smiling in front of their old house, the graffiti on a truck declaring its presence like a proud beast. The happiness in those images twisted under a dark veil, their brightness overshadowed by the collector's malice. "No," he screamed, clenching his fists. "You won't take my memories." The shadows danced in delight, and laughter trickled like a malignant river. "But they're already mine," cackled a voice, slick and oily, echoing within the confines of the room. Jack's fists tightened further as he felt the weight of despair press upon him, threatening to drown him in recollections. But deep beneath the tide of memories, something flickered his resolve. The memories were his, a part of him, not the collector's. "Fight back," he shouted, feeling the energy surge through his veins like wildfire. He pressed forward, eyes narrowing against the swirling darkness. He could feel their hunger, could sense the shadows trying to reach out to ensnare him. But this time he was determined to take back what belonged to him. He strode up to the wall of memories, touching each photo. With every heartbeat, a pulse of light surged through him, illuminating the objects. From his childhood toys to the drawings of Timmy, who wished him luck. Each touch sent a shockwave of warmth through his chest. These were more than just memories. They were his lifeline to love, family, and hope. "You're wrong," Jack shouted defiantly. "These aren't yours. They're mine." At those words, the shadows recoiled, shrieking their displeasure. The room warped as his memories filled with the power of the emotions he had buried. Love and laughter clashed with fear and despair, igniting a storm that split the darkness, revealing cracks of light. "Embrace it," the woman's voice echoed through the whirlpool of memories. "Use your past to forge your future." His vision cleared as his resolve hit a precipice. The vibrant glow pulsed beneath his fingertips, and with each swipe, he began to reclaim his past, pulling them from the shadows. The broken parts of him began to merge with the light, steering him away from the abyss. Jack felt the laughter wane, the shadows losing their grip, flickering like candle flames. "You can't have them," he yelled again. "I choose hope." With a decisive thrust, he unleashed the full force of light upon the room, sensations coiling around him like thunder. The shadows splintered, howling as they lost their power. They writhed in wild anguish, their malevolent laughter falling into a hollow gasp. "No, come back. They belong to me," the collector's voice screamed, echoed through the vortex of memories. But Jack felt something shift. Within the chaos of light, the realization hit him he was the key to his own fate. Each room melted away, the walls collapsing into shards, consumed by a brilliant radiance. Jack zeroed in on the last door, the heavy silence before it shivering with the residue of battle, his heart beating tumultuously. With one final push, he flung open the door. The light spilled around him, flooding his senses, and the atmosphere shifted, revealing a vast expanse of endless roads stretching before him, each road vibrant and alive, each path offering freedom from the collector's clutches. There, at the edge of his vision, he could see his home, Sarah and Timmy standing at the doorway, warmth radiating from their silhouette. "Jack, come home," they called, their voices a soothing balm against the tumult that raged within him. His heart soared, a wave of relief crashing against the shores of his being. He took a step forward, the unyielding darkness dissolving behind him, shadows torn asunder by the light of his courage. What lay ahead was a blank canvas, an open road of possibilities, free from the clutches of despair. Jack chose to embrace the future, to weave his own story, refusing to bow to the haunting lure of the collector. With every ounce of strength he had, Jack ran toward home, toward his family, unwavering. The shadows shrieked in their last throes, but they were echoes in the distance. As he crossed into the radiant light, he understood finally this was not merely an escape, but a rebirth. The past had shaped him, but it would no longer control him. Ahead lay hope, laughter, and new stories waiting to flourish. As the darkness receded into nothingness, Jack took a deep breath, surrendering to the warmth of love that awaited him. And in that moment he reclaimed himself, resolved to write his own story, without fear holding him back. The tale had come to an end, but the new journey had just begun. And you, dear friend listening, now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. It helps more than you know. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what just unfolded. And instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support now. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.